Oh hey, hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to the very first episode of StarCraft 2 Strategy. Today, we are going to be talking about a really important subject because we are going to try and discuss this thing called Zerg vs Terran. Now, in this series of videos, we are going to go over some higher level play. I know a lot of people are like, maybe in Gold League or below or whatever, but from pretty much Diamond on and upwards, it's all about refinement, and the only real thing that you're trying to do is not make the mistakes that you usually make. Now, in this very first episode, we are going to be talking about SortOf. SortOf is a really good Zerg player, rather, and we're going to watch him play versus Kas. Now, Kas is also one of the best Terran players in Europe, and it's a very high-level Zerg versus Terran play. Now, in this game, that was, by the way, played at Dreamhack, I believe it was last Saturday or the week before, I don't actually know that. But in this game, we are actually going to look at two things. First of all, we're going to take a look at scouting. What does SortOf scout, and how does he scout, and how does he respond to scouting? And second of all, when does he create unit? Now, we are going to look at those points because I've noticed that in my own games, I've actually been playing a lot lately, and in my own games, I noticed that usually I will lose to certain timing pushes from the Terran player. Now, the first 10 minutes of Zerg vs Terran in pretty much every matchup, you should be playing pretty much flawlessly if your opponent is going for some sort of a macro style as well. And what I noticed, I all of a sudden lose to like a massive Hellion push out, or like a Stimpack timing push, or like a Hellbat drop or whatever, and while watching Dreamhack, I actually noticed that without scouting anything, SortOf was he was scouting something obviously, but without seeing any kind of Hellbats, SortOf was already prepared, and he already had Spore Crawlers ready in the game, I believe it was game 3 versus Kas, and I wasn't completely sure why and how he scouted that sort of a thing, and before he saw any kind of Hellbats, he was already defended versus this. Now, it turns out he actually does not make them blindly at all, because in the other two games, he does not opt to go for blind Spore Crawlers. So in this series, we are going to take a look at first, how does he scout and what does he scout? And second, when does he create units and why? So here we are in the game. It's going to be EmpireKas spawning in the bottom left corner, and it's going to be Western Wolves SortOf spawning in the bottom right corner on this map. I believe it's called Whirlwind Alley. Now, it's going to be a Zerg vs Terran, and I'm just going to rush through the replay a little bit and check what is going on. Now, I've already done this myself, actually last night on the live stream, and I've noticed a bunch of different funny things that SortOf does opt to do. What is very standard right now is Zerg players going for a hatchery first, a scout around 13 supply, then they make a spawning pool, then they make a gas geyser, and then they just, you know, just play it normally. But the first important thing to note, SortOf does actually opt to not drone scout on this map. He simply does not opt to go for any kind of drone scouting, most likely because obviously he's having Overlords out to scout, and this is a 4-player map, so it's relatively hard to scout anything. Now, as you can see, he did open up with a hatchery first, and he's going to follow it up with a spawning pool. Then he's gonna get a gas a little tiny bit later. He's actually, here we go, he's actually going to get the Overlord before he starts the gas geyser at 18 supply. Now, that is not really too noteworthy, he's just getting it slightly later than a standard Zerg player right now, but we will figure out the reason why he's doing this in a little bit. Now, what you used to see a lot in Wings of Liberty is Zerg players going for like a super quick 4-queen kind of play, and that was really good because you were allowed to spread so much creep in the early part of the game that you were just crushing your opponent left and right. Now, keep in mind, he's only just now, well, he's not scouted it just yet, but he's only just now scouting that his opponent is in the bottom left corner. So here we go, his first and his second queen spawned, and he's instantly queuing up a third and a fourth queen. Now, why does he do this? Well, he once again is going for the really early creep spread, but it also allows him to play very, very defensive in the early part of the game. Those 4 queens that he is creating are actually a result of him getting this gas a little bit later, and therefore having a few more minerals to start those queens right away. Now, he's just going to continue this one, pretty damn standard. He's actually going to pull off gas in a little tiny bit. He's actually losing an Overlord right here, so a little bit of a sloppy play. But he does recognize, oh yes, it is going to be standard Marine play. Not Reaper play, but Marine play into medevac, or into Hellions with a reactor on it. Now, he's actually going to start Zerging speed, and at this point, you know, we are pretty much at the standard game. There are 2 queens. Going to lay down creep tumors, which is relatively interesting, but nothing to worry about too much. You can give it a try if you do enjoy the 4 queen kind of play. He does have early Zergling speed on the way. He pulled drones off gas. Now, the first little thing that we need to note is when does SortOf take a third base. Up until this point, since we are looking at when he starts creating units, up until this point, he basically made absolutely 0. He has no units created so far whatsoever. Now, an important timing to note is that the first Hellions will come across the map in a standard game right between the 6 to 6 minutes and 45 second mark. Kind of depends how many Marines got out, kind of depends when he took the gas geysers out, but right around 6.5-ish minutes is when you should be seeing the first Hellions coming out. Now, this is the first little scout that SortOf will be able to do. He has a Zergling right here spotting the front base of EmpireKas, so if Hellions move out, he will see it with this little Zergling, and he also has taken the watchtower. Now, those are the only 2 Zerglings that he has created so far, so it's nothing too big at all. Now, when does he take a third base? Well, he wants to be taking that one before any kind of Hellions can come across the map and roast his drones, so he's taking it right around the 6-minute mark, and he's still, you know, not really mining gas at all, still just making drones, and at this point, when he actually hits max saturation on 2 base, when he has the third base going up, he adds drones back into gas. Now, this is relatively standard as well, but it is a really important timing to note. It is right before Zergling speed finishes. He actually is about half a minute or so away from this Zergling speed finishing, and he's starting a second gas geyser already, which will be out in time when the Zergling speed finishes. And he's also adding drones back into gas. Now, what he's going to aim for is just standard Zerg play, right? He's not going to do any kind of fancy. He's just going to try and get the lair up. He's gonna try and get the Baling Nest up, double upgrades, maybe Overlord speed, whatever he feels like, but he's just going to play a very standard Zerg play. Now, up until this point, besides the gas geysers and besides the 4 queens, nothing too noteworthy at all. He is going to be spreading a lot of creep. He took around a 6-minute third base. Awesome stuff. But what do we see right now on the production tab? This is the first batch of units that SortOf makes. Now, why is he making these units right now? Now, like I mentioned, he's only going to be making about 12, I believe. Those are the only Zerglings that he's creating. But like I mentioned, this is right when Zergling speed finishes, right when the Hellions can get across the map, which is at 6 minutes and 45 seconds. And it's right when he wants to start defending his third base. Now, he knows about Hellions as well. He's actually seeing them with this little Zergling. And the other Zergling already got roasted by one of those Hellions. As you can see, yes, this one actually has 1 kill on it. So he did manage to kill the 1 Zergling. But this is the first batch of Zerglings that is being created right now. So this is super important to note. So write down, I actually wrote it down myself as well. Let me actually, wait, there we go. Let me actually show it to you right here. I'm not going to spoil the rest of the game just yet, but first set of Zerglings that he creates is right when he hits max saturation on 2 base and right before he starts making drones again. For his third base. So as soon as you hit max saturation on 2 base, you start a second gas geyser, you start a bunch of Zerglings, and you have Zergling speed finishing up, and you put drones back into gas. Now you're doing this all while having a max saturation, which means 16 drones on minerals and 3 drones per gas geyser on 2 bases. Now, is he going to go back to droning? Yes, it actually does turn out. He's already rallying everything. Let me actually double check. No, he's not rallying this one just yet, but he's soon going to rally everything to the third base. Now, he has a set of Zerglings out, but he's not even scouting with them. As you can see, he's just leaving them at home because he knows he will be 100% safe versus pretty much everything that Kas can throw at him. And he's just making sure that he always creep is spreading everywhere. He's just making sure that he can take a watchtower while he knows that the Hellions are probably not there anymore. And he's going to make a few more Zerglings once again when he hits max saturation. Now, right before he really starts droning up this third base heavily, which is going to happen in a little tiny bit, he's making a few drones every now and then, but right before he really starts making those and really starts creating more and more drones, he actually is going to make one more batch of Zerglings. Now, as you can see, he has +1/+1 going on. He has a batch of Zerglings. The second batch he created while he was max saturation. And now he's going to start adding drones back into gas. But he's not going to go for full saturation just yet on this base. He actually, even though he only scouted this so far, and he only saw the Hellions moving out, he's going to create one more big batch of Zerglings right around... Come on. Well, he actually does manage to kill a lot of stuff. But right around now, which is right when he hit about half saturation on his third base, he starts adding a bunch more units right now. Now, why does he do this? He does this because he's actually Overlord scouting. Now this is something that I have not done myself. I did not really go for a 2-base max saturation Zergling. He's doing this in 100% of the time, but I also did not go for an Overlord scout. Now let's take a look at what he scouted and when he scouted it. So for us to do this, we need to go back a little tiny bit. Let's go to the 6-minute mark. And in every single game of Zerg vs Terran, he's actually going to be flying in an Overlord right around the 6.5-minute mark. He's waiting. Well, he's actually a little tiny bit slow, but here we go. He's going to be flying in an Overlord. Now keep in mind, this is right when he's still making the 3rd base, right when he's starting the double evolution chamber, and right after creating the initial batch of Zerglings, or the batch of Zerglings. And he's actually flying in this Overlord. Now this Overlord is going to be telling him everything. This Overlord scout that he keeps doing in every single Zerg vs Terran that sort of plays, he will decide how he's going to follow up stuff. The 1st and the 2nd batch of Zerglings, which are right before he starts running up the 3rd base, are pretty much happening 100% of the time, but the 3rd batch that he created are due to this Overlord scout right here. So let's have a look at what he sees. He sees more barracks going down, he sees more reactors going down as well, and he sees a tech lab upgrading something, he sees a, what is this thing called, a factory, and he sees a starport. So what does this mean? Well, there's probably gonna be a Stimpack timing push, right? Stimpack is already halfway done, there's reactors with Widow Mines coming up, and he's probably going to start medevac production really soon. Now, for us to really counter this sort of play and really know what is going on, this is the first possibility that a Terran player can go for. It's going to be a 2-base timing push, without a 3rd command center. He's going to go for a lot of Marines, Widow Mines, and probably a few medevacs. Now, we scouted this with a 6 minutes and 30 Overlord scout, and when does this actual Stimpack push come? It's actually coming right around the 9.5-minute mark, which in a standard game is the time that a Stimpack finishes. Now let's take a look at when he creates the 3rd batch of Zerglings. As you can see, he's just making a few more drones, he's making like a little bit more to get a few drones going on this 3rd base, but when does he start creating these Zerglings? They take about half a minute to finish up, and it's actually right between the 8 or right around the 8.5-minute mark, which will make sure for him that he will be able to hold this timing push that he scouted with the Overlord. Now, as you can see, he's making sure, nope, no 3rd bases here either. He's going full on into Zergling production, adding on a few Bailings right now, but he's just going to be making Zerglings. Now, this is why they sometimes call Zerg map hack, right? Because without really seeing anything, he's already having units in preparation. Like, he scouted at 6 minutes and 30 seconds that there were certain buildings done, and 3 minutes later, that's like half the game later, half the game time later, he actually has units out to prepare for this push that he knew 100% of the time was coming, and that he will be able to clean up properly. Now let's have a look at how this fight is gonna go. He scouted at 6 minutes and 30 seconds once again. There was a Stimpack timing push coming. He once again acknowledges it right now by scouting with the Zergling at the watchtower. At around the 8.5-minute mark, which is right before really droning up this base, he starts a shit ton of units, as you can see right here. +1/+1 is finishing up. He has a lot of creep spread due to the early 4 queens. Let's see how this fight is gonna go. He prepared perfectly for it, and let me just tell you, this fight is not gonna do anything for Kas. Kas is actually not going to do any damage whatsoever, and there will be so much of an advantage right now for SortOf just because of this little bit of a scout. Now, before we go into the next game, let's sum it up once more. What did he see? He scouted with an Overlord at 6 minutes and 30 seconds. He realized there were a lot of reactors down. He saw a tech lab upgrading something for Marines, and he saw Widow Mine production. This means that there is going to be a push right around this 9.5-minute mark, so instead of droning up his 3rd base, he decided to go for a lot of Zerglings, and as you could see right there, the push basically did nothing at all. Now let's jump into the second game. Keep in mind, the first batch of Zerglings got created right around now, which is when he hits full saturation on 2 base. He does this pretty much 100% of the time, and as you can see,